So now, let's talk about the biography of Rollo May. Rollo May is an American psychologist considered as the father of existential psychology. He was born on Ada, Ohio in 1909. During his childhood, he lacked education because his family believed that dili na siya importante. Later on, bawa na ninyo. When his sister had a mental breakdown, May's father suggested that because of too much education. So no, ilang family is not into education kaayo. So katong nagkasakit iyang sister kay mura bitaw sisi sa iyang father nga mao na kay sige mahag kanang eskwela or like sige siya studies, eskwela ina na. If sa tuwa pa ina na sa tong mama or papa nga ina mo na kay sige mag cellphone mo nang gasakit imong kuan kay sige cellphone. Pero sila ha kay mura bitaw kanang sigag tuon, sigag eskwela ina na. So ang iyang mother pod kay tawgon pod ni Rollo May og Cubich. I forgot the right exact word ba. Mo na siya tawgon niyang mother og Makate. So mao to, his parents separated and eventually divorced. So this experience affected May's mental health and he suffered from depression. Pero eventually na okay na pod siya and na-cope up ra pod niya. So after he graduate, he went to Greece and para mag-teach siya adto. And unfortunately, he caught the illness tuberculosis. So na-face niya ang death ato nga time since ang tuberculosis nga sakit kay wala siya dili pa kanila makaya ma-manage. But his illness helped him to have a better appreciation of existentialism. And ato nga time katong na siya sa Greece, naman si Adler ato motong adto niya mas nibuan pa niya yung self kay si Adler mura siya na siya kanang kami daw kada gabi nga session nga about sa mga speaker yang topic kay all about humanistic. So mo to si Rollo May mas discover pa niya kuan iyang self, and I hope you will have a time to read the presentation since summary na siya and akong story karon kay a long short story of kanang Rollo May. And that's all about the biography of Rollo May. Next is, what is existentialism? So before that, let's delve into the background of existentialism. So I hope you will have also the time to read the PPT since I will have a short discussion about it. So existentialism is a philosophical movement led by Soren Kierkegaard, Viktor Frankl, Martin Heidegger, and popularized by Jean Paul. So ang kuan na gyud ang existentialism, yung main topic is freedom, responsibility, and death. Because once we already knew we exist, we are going not to exist someday. So mo na siya ang existentialism, mo na siya ang background, gamay nga background sa existentialism. Next is philosophy interprets existentialism as a variety of ways. First assumptions is existence precedes essence. Please read the presentation since I will be discussing it only and I will not read that. So basically means that our existence will define our essence. When we say existence, means ni exista, natay gibuhat or nay movement. Well, meanwhile the essence is the main ingredient nga mo shape nato as a persons. So to understand this concept, it helps we should contrast it with humans beings with man-made objects. Example, ang craft person nag-build siya tool nga scissor, di ba? Ang sama if i-build na to nanagad na siya purpose anong nag-exist na siya nga kanang butanga. So the scissors have predetermined essence. Ang essence niya is to cut things that dictates their designs and existence. So humans are not manufactured with a built purpose, blueprint, or pre-programmed nature. So we arrive in this world, or we exist completely free of any defined label, career path, or set of personality. So di ba, if may exist nga world, wala pa tayo nabawaan, like wala pa tayo label unsa daytong ganang nga path, unsa tong mga traits, wala pa ta, we're like a blank state, wala pa tayo experiences. So your essence, or who you actually are, what you value, or what your life means, it's something you create over time. So diba, kung unsay ganahan nimo mahitabo, unsay i-value nimo, or unsay ganahan nimo mahitabo in the future, you are the one who create that over time. You construct it through the thousands of daily choices you make, imong habits nga imong ma-form, and imong actions nga ganahan nimo buhaton. So because wala mo gay fix nga human nature, like need to i-follow. You carry your full responsibility for your life. So dili nimo na siya ma-blame sa imong environment, your past, or destiny for who you become. If you want to be a kind person, a skilled craftsman, or a leader, you must actively perform that actions that make you one. So according to existentialism, mao na siya ang second one is subject and object unity. This principle addresses how human beings interact to the world nga nasa ilang palibot, rejecting the idea that we are passive observers. Watching means magtanaw ta sa distance kung unsay nahitabo sa life nato. So society often pushes people to act as objects, means i-treat nila like machine, like dapat mo-follow tag routines, like mo-follow tag orders, or mo-blend tag crowd without thinking. But existentialism rejects the passive way of living. So you cannot discover the truth, meaning, or connection by standing on the sidelines. Diba? Tinuod man gyud pod, dili man ma-discover ang tinuod, ang meaning nato, or ang connection kung na sa kilid. So dapat we actively participate in that. Real understanding requires a active, subjective participation. You discover who you are. So by participating, you discover who you are and what you matters to you by directly engaging with your work, your environment, and your relationships. So many philosophies split the mind, means the thinking subject from the body, which is the acting object. This concept reunites them into a single embodied experience. So what you think in your head and what you physically do in the world. So kung unsa imong ibuhat sa imong palibot, or unsa imong giunahon na, are not separate, isa na siya. Your thoughts only gain real weight and validity when they are expressed through your physical actions. So that's the subject and object unity. Next is the third assumptions, means search for meaning and total responsibility. So this concept examines the weight that comes with human consciousness. So unlike with those animals nga, they act purely on their instinct, while humans are driven to question their own existence, searching for a reason why nganong naman ta diri. So we constantly ask ourselves questions like, kinsa man ko, worth it ba mabuhi? How do I actually live up to my potential? Existentialism notes that the universe dili mo answer those questions para nimo. It's who you are. It's who you are, or we have to answer them for ourselves. As the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre famously put it, man is nothing else but what he makes of himself. You are not defined by what you wish to be or unsay plano nimo in the future. You are defined exclusively by what you actually do or unsay gipangbuhat mo. And yeah, that's correct. Diba? Dili mo we can say nga mo nang buhat plan but buhaton just like we do, like magtuon ako aning oras oy, pero katong ato na nga oras wa tagatuon. So we are the one who define ourselves kung kinsa dapat ta. And next is total responsibility means you own your life completely. Kay kinsa man isupot imong silingan mo own si imong life, ikaw gyud mismo. While you cannot but you cannot always control your external circumstances, your childhood or your environment, you are always in control of how you respond to them. Bitaw. Dili man dili man ikaw ang control sa imong mga circumstances, your childhood or environment. Ikaw kung how you responded, kung unsa nimo siya pag-handle. Using your background as an excuse for bad choices is what existentialists call bad faith. Bitaw. Yeah, bad faith. Next is, this total freedom is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it is incredibly liberating because no fate, dynamic, or past mistake locks you into a specific track. On the other hand, it is deeply anxiety-provoking, often called as existential dread. Because if you mess up, you have no choice to blame but yourself. If liberating means no fate, dynamic, or past mistakes locks you into specific track. Pero when you say anxiety-provoking means if you mess up, if mas nimo ang imong pambuhat, you have no one to blame but yourself. Just like ngano ing-ani man ni ngano ing-ani man ko niya nakano na ka nga amo ni ing-ani ko kay ing-ani man pangbuhat. So you are the one who is shaping you. Next is the anti-theoretical approach. So this principles focuses on the danger of trying to reduce complex human beings down to not curious statistics or rigid levels. So you actually live human experiences. The pain, the joy, the confusion, and choices you feel every day is far more real than any abstract academic theory. Philosophy should start with a real life, not force idea on paper. Existentialism strongly resists placing people into fixed boxes, whether they are psychological diagnoses, personality types, political labels, or social classes. When you treat someone as just a type or category, you strip away their uniqueness, dehumanize them, and destroy the ability to act authentically. So, rather than trying to fit yourself into template created by society, school, or religion, you must live authentically. This means honoring your individual freedom, making your own choices, and constantly recreating yourself through real world actions. So next, if you look at the slide on the screen, this lesson focuses on how human beings actually experience existing day to day. So let's break it down into two main parts: the core concept and the three modes of being. So doesn't means being in the world. You notice in a quote on the left, a person and their world are inseparable. It means in philosophy, doesn't is a German word that literally means being there. The main takeaway here is simple. Dili ka you cannot be separated. Like, ang human mind, dili separate sa environment you live in. So, you aren't floating like a computer setting outside of reality, just watching life go by. Instead of watching it, you are connected with it. You are dropped into and interacting with the world around you. So every single seconds, everything you think, feel, or decide happens inside a specific context. So I will give you an example. Like, imagine learning how to drive a car. So when you first start, you consciously think about every pedal, the mirror, and the turn signal. You feel separate from the bicycle and the road. But once you become an experienced driver, you no longer analyze The car, you simply drive. Like the car, the highway, the weather, and your hands and the wheel merge into one single fluid experience. You are not an isolated mind thinking about the road. You are fully embedded in the act of driving. So that seamless connection to your immediate situation is dasan. Una siyang, ang dasan mo to siya, simple words, doesn't means being there. Next is the three modes of being. Now, look at the diagram. In the middle, which is the existential philosophers argue that while we live in one unified world, our existence plays out across three interconnected dimensions, which is the world, the mid-world, and the eigenworld. So first, let's discuss the world. So what it is? World is the biological and the physical world. Discover the natural laws, your body, biological drives like such as hunger or sleep, and physical surroundings. So if you step outside in a rainstorms without an umbrella, you shiver, like your shivering body experience the world. Like example, think about pulling an all-nighter to study or finish a project. So around 3 a.m., your eyes burn, your head throbs, and your body craves sleep. So no matter how much willpower you have, your physical reality enforces its boundaries. That biological strain, physical fatigue, and raw bodily sensation is your demanding attention. So let's get to the map. Next is the mid-world. The mid-world means the interpersonal world. Simply means that the world of social relationships. So mid-world is all about social relationships. This is how you interact with your family, among friends, and the society. Like you pay close attention to the slide note here. The authentic living in the mid-world means treating other people as human beings with their own freedom. So you see them not as an objects or tools to get what you want. So imagine, like example imagine imagine nga you're working on a high stakes group project. If you treat your teammates purely as tools, assigning them work just so you can get an A without caring about their workload or stress, you are acting authentically. An authentic network connection means actively listening to their input, respecting sa ilang mga individual strengths, and recognizing them as a complete human beings with their own independent goals. So, if network, it means it's connected with social relationships, being authentic. Lastly is the eigenwolf, means self-awareness. What it is your relationship with yourself, which means self-awareness. So, this is your inner psychological world, your personal values, your self-reflection, and private thoughts. It is where you ask yourself, am I living a life that actually aligns with my personal views? Like example, like picture accepting a prestigious, high-paying job offer because your family and friends are thrilled for you. But when you get home and sit alone in the dark, you feel deep knot in your stomach because the work completely goes against your personal ethics. That quiet, reflective moment where you confront your own values, honesty, and identity away from everyone else, opinions is your ignorance. So, when we say, so, balik ko na to ha. When we say the amwalt, it is the environment. When we say midwalt, the interpersonal world means the social relationships. When we say eigenwalt, it is your relationship with yourself. So next, if you look at the slide on the screen, this it focuses on what happens when things go wrong. Specifically, when a person becomes disconnected from the dimensions of existence we just discussed. Let's break it down into two main parts. The core concept, which is the disconnection from being in the world. Notice the text of the left. On the left, which is the alienation, occurs when a person becomes disconnected from one or more dimensions of being in the world. So, in existential psychology, psychological distress is not just a chemical imbalance in the brain. It often stems from losing touch with reality. When you cut yourself off from your body, your social connections, or your inner self, you experience alienations. The pathway back to mental wellness requires moving from awareness to understanding and reconnection. So, as example, imagine staying indoors for 2 weeks straight, playing video games, eating junk foods, ignoring texts from friends, and avoiding your real world responsibilities. At first, it feels like nagawas ka, but eventually you feel numb, detached, and hollow, like you're watching your life through a foggy screen rather than living it. That feeling of complete detachment from reality is existential alienation. So there are three forms of alienation. If you look at the diagram on the right, just as we have three modes of being, like the Amwal, the Midwalt, and the Eigenwalt, alienation manifests across those same three dimensions. So first, the environmental alienation, it disconnects from Amwalt. It is a loss of touch with biological and physical reality. So this happens when we ignore our physical environment, our health, and our nature. We treat our bodies like machines and forget our biological connection to the physical world. So opposite kay siya sa Eigenwald, no? Sa Amwald, since sa Amwald we are connected with the environment. This environmental alienation, we are disconnected. We are like na lost tag touch sa physical reality, which is ang atong physical environment, ang atong health, o ang atong nature. So I will give you example for this. So imagine a corporate worker spends 14 hours a day under artificial office lights, subsisting entirely on energy drinks, ignoring chronic back pain, and never stepping outside to feel natural sunlight or fresh air. They have become completely alienated from their physical environment and biological needs. So, di ba, lalait na kay murag napasagdanan niya yung kagalingon. And that's the kuan sa amo. Dapat ikaw ano yung environment. You should align with your environment. Yeah. Next is social alienation. So, ang social alienation, it is disconnect with this is disconnect from midworld. So, it means it is an instrumental relationships where others are treated as objects rather than subjects. So this occurs when you stop forming genuine human connection. Instead of seeing people as unique individuals, you treat them merely as stepping stones, tools, or transactional threats. Example: someone who builds friendships solely because what those people can do for their career. They network constantly, talk endlessly, and attend parties, yet they don't actually care about anyone they meet. They view everyone as an object para makakabot nila tong mga corporate ladder. Despite being surrounded by people, they experience profound social alienations. Next is self-alienation. So, it is disconnected na siya sa Eigenwald, since ang Eigenwald kay more in self-awareness. Ang self-alienation, mo siya ang loss of awareness of authentic values and choices. So, this is when you lose your internal compass. You conform so heavily to what parents, society, or social media demand that you no longer know what you actually believe or want. So, example, a college student who chooses a finance major, dresses in popular trends, and adopts opinions strictly to fit in with a specific social group. When asked privately what they actually enjoy or care about, they genuinely don't have an answer. They have lost touch with their own mind and values, which is the ideal. So, if sa dozen, they are being there means being there. So mo to siya ang three modes of dozens katong um amwalt, iginwalt, and mitwalt. Well, ang kanin siyang atong i-discuss karon kani nga slides kay it's all about kanang disconnected siya atong mga three modes sa dozen. So that's it with my part.
I'll be discussing the two central concepts of Rollo May's existential psychology, the anxiety or guilt. So, when we think of the two terms, like gina-treat ni na to as problems or ang emotions kay need i-eliminate or anang mas maayo nga ang isa ka tawo kay mo undergo o therapy or medications. But for Rollo May, these experiences are not just negative symptoms to be cured or to avoid. Instead, they are natural parts of humans. Let us talk about anxiety. According to Rollo May's existential view, anxiety happens when a person becomes aware that their existence or something they consider important may be threatened. For example, ako, nakoy ka ng summative quiz ugma. And importante siya nako and kailangan nako sa pasron. Kaya dili nako sa pasron ug mabagsak ko, ako ang grado maapektuhan. So, tungod ana, naka-feel ko og kakulba or kanang pressured, pero kana nga feeling sa anxiety kay dili siya makadaot. In fact, anxiety is a natural part of life. Mahitabo na siya if maka-face sa og mga challenges, kanang pagbag-o sa atong decision or kanang situations nga feel bito na to kay importante. For Rollo May, anxiety is connected to freedom, growth, and change. Kaya nga naman, tungod kay naatay freedom nga mopili and naputay katagsa-tagsang responsibility and uncertainty when it comes sa choices and decisions. For example, mo take ko og anang nursing, kanang gusto kay ko ana nga program, but at the same time no nag-doubt ko nga kanang tungod sa kamahal sa tuitions, dahan kay ko what if sa kung una-una, like what if dili na ko kaya, what if kanang ma-disappoint akong family, what if kana bitang masayang ra ang tuitions nga ilang gibayad para nako. And tungod ana nga pag-alinlangan, naka-feel ko og kanang anxiety. So ang anxiety is kanang makamotivate jud siya nga moakta, pero if kana bitong masubraan na, maka-feel ta og kahadlok and dili na ta, wala na tay motivations. There are two types of anxiety, the normal anxiety and neurotic anxiety. First, normal anxiety. Normal anxiety happens when we face a real threat, challenge, or serious situations, and our anxiety is appropriate or proportional to what is happening. So, ang normal anxiety is mag-make sense siya tungod kay maka-feel ka og concern ana nga situations or scenario. For example, nakoy reporting ugma para sa moang performance task and naka-feel ko kakulba, and that could be a normal anxiety. Ano man, tungod kay the presentation is real and kabalo ka sa imong kagalingon nga na kay responsibilidad ana nga scenario kay you are a student. But kana nga kakulba is can encourage you to prepare and study sa imong part, and mao na ang positive side sa normal anxiety na instead of stopping you, it can motivate you to study and prepare something. Kay for Rollo May, normal anxiety can be faced consciously and constructively, meaning na instead of running away the problem or kanang reporting, makapangutana ka sa imong kanang kaugalingon nga, what if they makaya nako, nadala ko sa kong kakulba. So, normal anxiety can actually become a personal growth na dili tanang normal anxiety is makahuna-huna ka nga makadaot siya. Now, let us compare that with neurotic anxiety. Neurotic anxiety happens when a person's anxiety becomes greater than the actual threat or situations. Pasabot ana kay imuhang kahadlok o kakulba kay mas mulabaw pa kisa sa mahitabo. So, kani nga type of anxiety kay relate kayo ko ani tungod kay katong nami reporting para sa mong performance task. So, ang normal anxiety ana kay gikulbaan ko kay mo present ko sa atubangan, but I need to study my part and I will practice. But with neurotic anxiety, makahuna-huna ko nga what if mali ko, what if dili na ko mapasabot nila ang ako ang part and everyone will judge me. So, tungod anak nga thoughts, wala ko nakapresent og tarong. So, ang actual situations ana kay ang reporting, but the person's anxiety becomes much bigger than the actual challenge. So, ang neurotic anxiety can involve inner conflict and repression, and it can prevent a person from acting effectively. It can become unproductive because it may cause a person to avoid challenges, learning experiences, and opportunities for growth. Now, let us move to the second concept, which is guilt. According to Rollo May, guilt occurs when people fail to recognize or fulfill their potential. But when we hear the word guilt, usually the first thing that comes to our mind is, I did something wrong. However, existential guilt is broader than that. For Rollo May, guilt can come from our relationship with nature, other people, and ourselves. He described three forms of ontological guilt: the Umwelt, Mitwelt, and Eigenwelt. Umwelt refers to our relationship with the world or nature around us. Ontological guilt in Umwelt happens when we become separated from or disconnected from nature. For example, kanang dili na to pagtagad sa atong connections o responsibility sa atong environment. So, sa ang result sa atong pagkapabaya sa atong world kay gamay ra og ulan baha na ditso. Ang basura bisan asa pa ilabay sa mga lain-laing pang problema sa atong kalibutan tungod ana nakafeel ta og guilt. So, ang unwelt reminds us that we are not completely separated from the world around us. We are part of a larger environment and our actions can affect it. Mitwelt refers to our relationship with other people. Guilt can happen when we fail to understand, respect, and connect to other people. For example, I have a good friend who is having difficult time and she needs me the most, but I ignore her because I am too focused on myself, studies, and other stuff. Later on, naka-realize ko nga, ayaw pag naminaw ko niya and gidamayan ako siya sa mga panahon nga kailangan ko niya, dili unta siya mag-suffer. You may feel guilt because you fail to recognize the other person's feelings or needs. We have a responsibility not only to ourselves but also to the people around us. Eigenwelt refers to our relationship with ourselves. This is connected to our ability to recognize and fulfill our own potential. For example, you have a friend that has talent for incoming intramurals, but they never develop that talent because they are afraid of trying. So later, nakahuna-huna na sila nga, naaman nun tako'y ability, anak nga talent, wala lang jud ko mitry. So this can be connected to existential guilt. So Eigenwelt reminds us that we have the responsibility to understand ourselves and make meaningful choices. It doesn't mean that we have to become a perfect person. Rather, it means that we should be willing to recognize our abilities and make an effort to develop them. Now, an important question is guilt always bad? According to Rollo May's perspective, not necessarily. So, ang guilt kay pwede na itong mahimong lesson sa atong kinabuhi. Dili na siya feeling nga dapat na itong pugngan, but instead, pwede na ito siya gamiton and makarealize ta kung unsa ang kinahanglan natong bag-ohon or improve sa atong life. To summarize everything, Rollo May's existential psychology teaches us that anxiety and guilt are natural parts of human existence. Normal anxiety happens when we face a real challenge and it can motivate us to act and grow. Neurotic anxiety happens when our anxiety becomes greater than the actual threat and can prevent us from acting effectively. For guilt, Rollo May identified three forms of ontological guilt: the umwelt, relationship with nature and world; midwelt, relationship with other people; and eigenwelt, relationship with ourselves and our own potential. The important lesson here is that anxiety and guilt are not always things that we should simply avoid. They can help us understand ourselves, recognize our responsibilities, make choices, and grow as human beings.
First, intentionality means that our consciousness is always directed towards something, such as person, an object, a goal, or something that we considered important. For example, when we study because we want to pass an exam, our attention and action are directed toward that goal. The second concept is care, which means being genuinely concerned about someone or something. Care shows that we are emotionally invested and that the relationship matter to us. So intentionality gives direction to our actions, while care gives meaning and connection to our relationship. Together, they help us understand how people make choices and live meaningful lives. This slide focuses on love as active valuing. Based on the ideas of Rollo May, according to this idea, love is not simply an emotion or romantic feeling. Instead, love is an active choice where we deeply value and affirm another person. Love also requires courage and respect. We need courage to be vulnerable and express ourselves, while at the same time respecting another person's freedom, individuality, and autonomy. This means that genuinely loving someone does not mean controlling them. Instead, it means supporting their growth and respecting who they are as a separate person. Lastly, this slide talks about will, or our capacity to choose, decide, and act. Will allows us to turn our intentions into actual actions and take responsibility for the choices we make. The important idea here is that will connects intention with reality. For example, I may have the intention to become a successful student, but intention alone is not enough. I also need the will to study, make decisions, and take action toward that goal. So, this slide also shows the connection between intentionality, care, love, and will. Intentionality gives us direction, care gives us connection, and love gives us a meaning and commitment, and will help us turn these things into action. Together, these four capacities contribute to psychological health and authentic living.
Okay, so hi everyone. By the way, I am Nina and Margaret Tio Quireza, and in this video, I'm gonna be discussing my part of the Rollo May's discussion, which is the freedom and destiny. But before that, I've already assumed that you have already watched the previous videos of my groupmates in which they have discussed their different topics under this discussion, and I've assumed as well that you have already laid the foundation or the enough knowledge so that at this point, you will just easily understand what I am trying to say. Okay, so without further ado, let us now proceed to my discussion proper. But before that, let me open this discussion with the words that says, freedom is both a fundamental human capacity and a source of anxiety because freedom comes with responsibility. No, so looking at those words, we can somehow say that it is very reflective. No, so it is definitely true that freedom is both our capacity and a source of anxiety because kung maingon ganitag freedom murag atoa jud pud nang kabubuton kung unsa ato ang buhaton, no, muna ginaingon sa uban nga ako ka maning kinabuhi so kung unsa ako ang mga desisyon wa na kay labot ana ingana, no. So and to know that we can make decisions or we are free to make our choices, we are free to make our decisions, we must somehow know within ourselves as well nga kalakip ana nga mga choices o mga desisyon nato. We must be accountable for what will be the consequences or for what will be the results of those certain choices, no, kay ato man ang responsibilidad, kay ato man ang desisyon nga ginabuhat. Now ato na siyang i-discover kung unsa ba na siya nga type of freedom. For background, Rollo May divided freedom into two distinct categories, and these are the action-based and the internal. When we say action-based, this is what we call the existential freedom. So when we talk about existential freedom, this is the freedom of action, doing, and making daily choices. So mao ni siya ang commonly known nato no nga meaning kung unsa bagyod ang meaning sa gawas nun ta or unsa bagyod ang literal meaning sa freedom. For example, kanang mga everyday nato nga decision making. For example, nara na nimo kung mo eskwela ba karong adlaw, nara na nimo kung mukaon ba kag paniud turon, or nara na nimo kung mosulod ba ka subject ni Sir Anya na kay mag-test na pud si Jaron. So mao na siya ato ang ginatawag nga existential freedom. Now, let us proceed to the destiny. So, when we say destiny class, this represents the design of the universe expressed through each person's unique life. For example, kung gipanganak ka og pislat imong ilong, mao pud na imuhang destiny. Kung gipanganak ka og mao imuhang skin color kay mao inyuhang kaliwat, mao pud na imuhang destiny. Or shall we say, kung gipanganak ka og ingana ra imong height, mao pud na imuhang destiny. So that is what we refer to as destiny. It defines the context and the boundaries of our lives, no. So ato ag yung i-emphasize ang boundaries, no. So within these boundaries, we must exercise authentic choices, which is why freedom and destiny are inseparable, no. They are complementary rather than opposing forces. So let me give you an example in which destiny is a complementary for freedom. For example, you're not, or for example, imong destiny is death, no. So you cannot choose when to die, no. Dili man jud ka makapili sa imong timeline sa imong kinabuhi kay naa ra man pagbuot sa Ginoo kung kanus-a ka niya kwaon. So let us say you cannot choose when you will die, but you can choose to live your life to the fullest every minute or to embrace your existence, no. So imong i-embrace kung unsa ka karon, no. So that the destiny is death and the freedom is you choose whether to live your life to the fullest or you just accept where you are now, no. So another example is you cannot choose your height, no. Sa imong pagkaanak dili ka pwede mamili kung unsa ka katas-on, but you have the freedom to choose whether you will play basketball or you will just embrace your height, no. So that is how the freedom and destiny are complementary rather than opposing forces, no. So they work hand in hand to achieve a healthy person. Okay, so let us now proceed to the next slide, in which we're gonna be discussing on how to create meaning through authentic choices. But before we delve in deeper to that class, we must bear in our minds that meaning of our lives are not waiting to be discovered, no. Instead, we must build it with ourselves, no. Dili na siya murag destination while nagsakay ka og series, no. Kintahay pa dong ka og kalapi. So ang kalapi ang meaning sa imong kinabuhi, pero as of now feeling nimo murag naa pa man kos maribuhok. So okay ra og ingani og ingana akong buhaton, no. So first, we must enlighten ourselves that meaning is created, not found, no. no? So very relatable to John Locke's concept of tabula rasa, the blank slate, no? I don't know if you can still remember that one, but it says that we humans do not have built-in knowledge. Instead, it is the experiences that shape our mind, no? Very correlated lang yun sila, no? But for the concept of freedom and destiny, it somehow mean that life has no blueprint, no? So it is your deliberate choices that construct your life's purpose, no? So for example, during your elementary days or sa imuhang high school, murag naka-realize na kasi imong kaugalingon nga ang imuhang purpose gud sa kinabuhi is to serve the children, no? For you to become a teacher, no? To teach this young student and to become the molder of society, no? Ikaw mo mag-mold sa mga future professionals. But then as of now, kaingon po kasi imong kaugalingon nga ba, oy mauwaw man ko maistorya, or ang imong problema is the public speaking skills you currently have, no? Maulaw pa ka nga na. But we have to know, class, that public speaking is not an innate talent, no? It's not an innate skills, no? Instead, it is built through time, through practice, or through experiences, no? So instead nga imuha na lang pong dawaton nga dili jud imuhang purpose, no, ang mahimong maestra o magtudlo sa mga estudyante, you have to build first the instrument that will make you reach your ultimate purpose in life, which is to become one of the molders of society, no? So mauna siya. Okay, so we have here the next one is integration is essential. So as what I have said earlier, meaning comes from integrating the freedom and destiny, because freedom and destiny are inseparable and complementary rather than opposing forces, no? So you have to harmonize the two in order to become a healthy person. So for example, katong ako ang giingon ganina nga ang imuhang destiny is gipanganak ka nga medyo dark ang skin tone kay mao ang inyuhang kaliwat, no? So that is your destiny. But despite that destiny at hand, you have the freedom to choose how to respond on that limitation, no? So you have the freedom to choose to embrace yourself, no? Embrace your skin tone and become an advocate for other women as well to love their skin, because their own skin tone is their unique story. That what makes them unique, no? So mao na siya ang example of harmonizing the two, the freedom and destiny, to achieve a healthy person or to achieve a healthy mindset. Okay, now the last one for this is the avoiding integration causes distress. So it says that if you fail to harmonize or if you fail to integrate both freedom and destiny, it would cause distress and problem, no? So let me give you an example for that. For example, Anna is an excellent academic achiever from elementary up until high school, no? She is a consistent top 1 kunuhay, no? So when she reached college, no, so the destiny is that college is highly different from high school, no? We know that college is a new environment, no? Na ay mas daghang trabahoon, mas daghang schoolworks, mas stricter deadlines and grading system, as well as mga different personalities of professors, no? But Anna used her freedom to skip classes, no? Kay abi niya mabuwi ra lagi na oy, maklose ra lagi na akong professors, no? So she ignored the destiny, the fact that college is highly different from high school. Then she used her freedom to skip classes, no? So murag competent na siya sa iyang kagalingon na ay dili na nako na kailangan, okay, bright na kay ko, no? So eventually, no, after the midterm exam, no, she was enlightened that college is highly different man di ay, no? So lahi ang grading system, abi na kung musayo ako sa performance task, no? Kay ang performance task sa high school is consist of 60%, but in college is just 20%, no? The major exam is the biggest slice of your grades, no? So pag abot niya sa major exam, wa man day siya kapasar, no? Kay na yung mga new concepts niya absent siya atong time. So it eventually lead her to question her worth. Well, in fact, it's her fault, because sige siya absent, no? Kay very competent na siya sa iyang kaugalingon. So that is an example. If you fail to integrate the two, no, that will cause you problem or distress. And now, finally, we are now bound to my last topic for this discussion, which is the anxiety as existential reality. So, the first one is existential anxiety is about freedom, no? So, the dizzying fear that we have is because we know ourselves that we have choices and we are responsible for the outcome. No? So, for example, padong ka motabok sa yuko na ng pedestrian niya, wala nakakabantay nga naghinuktok na di ay ka. No? Naginuktok ka kung magpakasal bagyod ka kay mahadlok man kag laki, no? So but in the end you realize that it's your 100% choice if magpakasal baka or dili, no? So dili di mo libog-libugon ang mga sitwasyon nga naa nimo ang desisyon, no? Ikaw ang makapa-change anaa, mao na siya ang bot ipasabot ana. Okay, so we have here the next one is anxiety is natural, not pathological. So we must bear in our mind that experiencing anxiety sometimes is completely normal, no? It is in fact a healthy sign that you are growing, you are in your senses, and you are facing limitations, no? So for example, you are in your mid-30s and you are launching a new business. Then in line with that launching, you feel nervous for both the business itself and for the future of your children. But despite that nervousness, no, you still pushed through it, no? You face the limitations that there are tendencies that your business will fail or you will fail, but still you are able to face that limitations, and somehow that will become a way for you to grow, no? For you to become successful in the future. Okay, so the last one we have here is the therapeutic perspective. So the therapeutic perspective for this one is that it aims to help people stop running away from their anxiety and instead use their freedom to live authentically, no? So it helps us people to somehow accept our anxiety, face our destiny, and choose our own path, because as what I have said, it is true that we have destiny. Our own limitations are the limitations of our lives, like death, the cultures, the genetics, but we also have the freedom, no? We have the freedom to choose on how do we respond with those limitations, no? So it is our deliberate choices that construct our life's purpose. So that would be all. Thank you.
Existential psychology says health comes from living authentically by engaging with freedom and responsibility. Note the icons here: mortality, awareness, reminds us that life is finite, which pushes us to live meaningfully. Intentional choices means deciding consciously, not avoiding responsibility. Genuine care is about caring authentically for others. Acts on values means aligning our actions with what we truly believe in. Freedoms with limits shows that we live have freedom, it also exists within real world boundaries. So psychological health is about living consciously, engaging authentically, and acting responsibly. For psychology students, this has three practical applications: clinical practice, helping clients face reality and freedom and responsibility instead of escaping them; education, it recognizes students' search for meaning, which makes learning more engaging; and personal development, reflecting on our choices and values to see if we're living authentically. Rollo May teaches that psychology is about freedom, meaning, and becoming, not just solving problems. Integration and future application. Now, let's look at the integration and future application. Rollo May's existential framework helps us see distress not just as pathology but as a signal of disconnection from authentic living. The core interplay is important: freedom and responsibility, intentionality and care, love and will. These balances form the foundation of psychological health. For psychology students, May's ideas provide philosophical grounding. They remind us to honor human dignity, complexity, and the capacity for growth. For practice, applying these principles lead to more humane and authentic therapy, helping clients reconnect with their freedom and responsibility to create meaningful lives. So, distress becomes not just a problem, but a call to reconnect with the authentic existence. And I'll end with Rollo May's powerful reminder: human beings are not problems to be solved, but mysteries to be lived. Rollo May, the father of American existential psychology, emphasizes that human life is defined by freedom, responsibility, and authentic living. Drawing from existentialist philosophy, he argued that existence precedes essence, meaning we shape ourselves through choices rather than fixed identities. His works highlighted the importance of being in the world, a connection to nature, others, and self, and confronting non-being, awareness of death as sources of meaning. May believe that intentionality, care, love, and will are essential qualities for living purposely, while freedom and destiny must be accepted together because freedom allows us to choose and destiny sets boundaries within which those choices unfold. In essence, May taught that a meaningful life comes from embracing responsibility, living authentically, and finding purpose within the limits of Rollo May's existential psychology teaches that life is shaped by tension between the freedom and responsibility. He believed that people are not fixed beings but continually define themselves through their choices, and that authentic living requires to confront anxiety, death, and the limits of destiny. His concept of being in the world highlights our unity with others, nature, and ourselves, while non being reminds us that awareness of mortality gives life urgency and meaning. For May, qualities like intentionality, care, and love are essential and allow us to act purposefully, value others, and take responsibility for our existence. In essence, he showed that a meaningful life comes from embracing freedom within destiny, living authentically, and finding purpose through conscious choice. That would be all. Thank you.